Alabama's primary elections far from over. While the governor's races on both sides of the aisle ended in landslide victories, not every candidate solidified their spot on the November ballot. For races like Lieutenant Governor and U.S. Senate, candidates advance to what's called a runoff election. But what is a runoff election and how do they work? We verify. Senator Tommy Tuberville and Doug Jones both walked away from Tuesday's primaries as their party's nominees for governor. With both candidates going in as favorites, it was no surprise to see blowout victories at the polls, but not every race was the same story. Instead of securing a spot on the November ballot, some candidates earned themselves a trip to a runoff election. But what is a runoff election and how do they work? Let's verify. Our sources are the Alabama Secretary of State's office and Alabama's election laws. Here's what we found. In Alabama, getting the most votes isn't always enough to win a primary. A candidate must clear 50% of the votes plus one vote. In the Republican U.S. Senate race, Barry Moore led the field with 39%, but with Jared Hudson at 26% and Steve Marshall at 25%, the vote was too divided and nobody hit that 50% mark. The Republican lieutenant governor's race told a similar story. John Wall finished on top with 41%, followed closely by Wes Allen's 38%. When this happens, the top two candidates advance to a runoff election where they go head-to-head until one clears 50% of votes. Here in Alabama, that runoff is set for June 16th, but there's some things you should know before heading back to the polls. Alabama holds open primaries, meaning you don't register with a political party when you sign up to vote. Instead, you choose a party's ballot when you arrive at the polls on Election Day. But once you make that choice, you lose that option. If you voted in the Republican primary, you can only vote in the Republican runoff. And the same goes for Democratic voters. Under Alabama code, crossing over to the opposing party's runoff is considered a Class C felony. That charge can carry up to 10 years in prison, so you shouldn't take it lightly. However, if you set out Tuesday's primary entirely, you still have options. Since you never selected a party ballot in the first round, you're free to participate in either party's runoff on June 16th. And if you have something you want us to verify, text us at 256-382-2692.